Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Shaking the Damn Table. And today we are joined with Fanicy Hunter, and she is a trauma therapist. And I'm gonna let her introduce herself and tell a little about what she does.
Hi everyone, my name is Fanicy Hunter-Sears, and I am a mental health professional here in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm the owner of Emotion Therapy. We specialize in working with individuals, children, and families who have experienced any kind of mental health related issue. We specialize in trauma, and so pretty much our perspective is simply that, if there's something that we're experiencing, whether it is depression or anxiety or any kind of mood dysregulation, typically that is rooted in some form of trauma that we've experienced at some point in our life. And so what I try to do is help people to better understand what trauma is, pretty much kind of what it isn't, help them to understand what triggers are, and help them to be able to develop skills to basically regulate their emotions whenever they are triggered by something and they're starting to feel dysregulated. And so that's pretty much what we do, and we do it with the whole family system because it works best when you do it that way. So that's pretty much it.
And where can they follow you on like social media or anything?
They can follow me on Facebook at Emotion Therapy. Also, my web address is www.myemotiontherapy.com. And those are pretty much the main places. Or you can email me at emotiontherapy@outlook.com.
Great. So we wanted to talk today about pretty much just Black people and mental health issues and therapy. One thing that it seems to have been a trend, even as I was watching some old Black sitcoms and stuff like that, when it came to talking about seeing a therapist or going to therapy, there's always a stigma behind it, like you have to be crazy to go to therapy, or you have to be just very unstable in life to go to therapy. So do you believe that there is a stigma in the Black community when it comes to any of those type of issues, or trying to engage people into taking therapy seriously?
Yeah, there is huge stigma. However, I do see, strides in people in the Black community starting to reach out and seek out mental health on their own accord. But there still is resistance, and it's just kind of rooted in a lot of different things. It's rooted in, just a overall level of mistrust.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so many things that have happened in the Black community when it comes to our health, where we weren't, where things weren't fully disclosed what was really being done.
Yeah.
And because of that, we don't, we have trust issues.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's also, the level of when it comes to our spirituality. We're very spiritual people. And so that's been one of the things is that we, turn to our church, we turn to religion, we turn to our faith, and that those things, should cover everything, in order to help us to heal. But now we are having more people who are recognizing that we need both. We need our spirituality, yes, for sure, definitely. But we also need mental health professionals who can help us work through and understand what's happening in that area as well. And so I think that's really kind of the main places of where it's rooted and where it's coming from. But just, again, just that mistrust, which is understandable because we have, we've been misled in a lot of situations. And then if you have people who are not culturally competent, who are mental health professionals, it's very easy for someone to misinterpret a cultural issue as being a mental health issue.
I was actually going to ask you, did you feel like representation and like who you have as a therapist matters as far as like what you're saying with not being culturally aware of where somebody may be coming from? If I were to have like a white therapist versus a black therapist, do you feel like there's a level of importance in that when choosing?
It can be.
Mm-hmm.
It can be. It's just really about a matter of that therapist being culturally competent. And so you don't necessarily have to be black to be culturally competent.
Right.
You know, it's about being able to be aware of yourself and being aware of your own biases and what you're bringing into that room,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to really assess people and hear people and listen to people from an objective perspective. And so if we have that ability to do that, then we have the ability that we can help most people. As therapists, it's our responsibility to be able to communicate if for some reason whoever we're working with, if they're dealing with something that is outside of our wheelhouse,
Mm-hmm.
If it's not in our area of expertise, if we don't have experience in working in that area, then it's our responsibility to that person to let them know up front, hey, I don't really have a lot of experience in this area. If you want to continue with me, you can. However, I could try to refer you to someone who has more experience in that area so that you can, get the help that you need. And that's what our role is. That's what our responsibility is as therapists, is to do no harm and to make sure that we're being, as upfront with you about everything, making sure that we're fully informing you about what's going on and making sure we're giving you the best possible care that we can give you. So
I like that. Yeah, I know we talked before about that. I like that you do refer people as you feel like that you're not able to completely help somebody the way that they need to be helped, that you're able to go and, look around for them, because that is very important to be able to cater to what that person needs. But another thing I wanted to ask about was, have you ever had like somebody who may have been on the fence about therapy, and like how you kind of tried to encourage them to, seek more information or to try and look more into actually doing it?
All the time,
Yeah.
and because we don't want to force it on people, now sometimes there's people who are, court ordered or have some, reason why they are, they've been ordered to go. Okay. But outside of situations like that, you don't want to force someone or manipulate someone into trying to do therapy. What you want to do is let them know that you're there. And if they have questions, that, you're there to answer any questions and share information with them, and allow for them to choose for themselves what they feel is best to do. That's one of the reasons why I offer free consultations, like initial consultations when I meet with someone, so that we can kind of chit-chat a little bit, give you some information, find out what's going on with you, for me to even get an idea, is this someone who would be in my, area that I can help with, and then from there, I allow you to decide, do you feel like this is something that you would like to try? If you can, then this is what we would do, and let them go from there. And sometimes, most of the time people, if they're actually reaching out, seeking more information, most of the time after they've kind of gotten some information, and if they feel comfortable with the person, they'll at least try it, and sometimes not. But honestly, most of the time, I think when people come out and they reach out on their own accord, if they feel comfortable with me, or if they feel comfortable with someone else, they'll try it. So
do you feel like I know you mentioned earlier about as far as Black people having a distrust when it comes to health in general because of what we've been through and those different aspects. Do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like other parts of like systemic racism has built a lot of trauma within Black people?
Definitely. um, um, there's so many layers to that onion that you just of a question that you asked.
Right.
But it is because it's for me when I think of systemic racism, when I think of that, and I think of the root of it is, and it's rooted in a form of abuse.
Mhm.
Okay, because it is abuse, is abuse of another human being in some
Yeah.
form or fashion, whether it's emotional abuse, whether it's verbal abuse, whether it's physical abuse. It's rooted in that. And so if you think about the systems that are in place to protect people from abuse in this world, we have the DHRs and the Child Protective Services, and if someone was to abuse a child or if someone was to abuse an elderly person, then they would be held accountable for what they've done,
Mhm.
and those individuals who have been abused would be, you would do everything to try to protect them and help them heal, okay? If someone's experienced domestic violence, this is abuse, and again, it's abuse. It's rooted in, again, verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, all different kinds of abuses, okay? And so for me, when I think of the roots of it, that's really what it's rooted in. It's rooted in abuse. It's rooted in power and control. And that's what's being inflicted on people.
Mhm.
And so what we are dealing with that comes from it, and there's so many different things that happen. There's so many people who experience levels of PTSD or complex PTSD because of it, and we don't even realize it because it's our normal everyday lives.
Mhm.
This is life for us. This is our normal. And so it would be really great. I love that there are people who are working to um, do their best to declare racism a public health crisis, because it really is.
Yeah.
And I know that there are also people who are working to have it recognized in the DSM as, as PTSD, that there is a form of PTSD that is caused by people who have experienced, racism, period, whether it's a prolonged period of it or a short period of it. Because when it comes to PTSD, you can experience just one event
Mhm.
and you can have PTSD.
Yeah.
And so and what happens with that is that people will have all kinds of different reactions. So maybe they may re-experience the event that happened to them. Something can trigger them, and it's like they are re-experiencing that all over again. It could be a smell, it could be a color, it could be a song, it could be anything. Okay, it could be a building. Um, Sometimes people will begin to avoid things because of what they've experienced with PTSD.
Mhm.
Um, there's all kinds of ways that people will experience and respond to it. And so that's what we want to do, is we want to make sure that we are really kind of understanding um, how it's affecting us,
Mhm.
um, be compassionate with ourselves, with how we're experiencing it and how it's affecting us, and continue to do our best to hold um, the powers that be accountable
Mhm.
to being able to fully address the impact that it's had on the Black community and communities of color in general. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, it definitely did. Uh, even speaking on the PTSD, like I kind of like realized myself like after being arrested and dealing with um the police officers in Hoover and stuff like that, anytime I saw police officers after that, it's like I automatically tensed up a little bit and felt like I had to, you know, have that same energy that I had with them during that time, which is just kind of like show that, you know, I'm not intimidated by you kind of thing, basically. And it's like you said, it's not always recognizable, like small things, but it's just like I recognize like my body tensing up more when I saw them versus like other times where, depending on whatever the situation was, it would be like you can either ignore it or you may have that same reaction just because of what we in the Black community view the police as a whole. So, yeah, it's very interesting that you brought that up too. So,
and when we experience those things, it's really important to take care of yourself. I'm an advocate of self-care. People who've experienced PTSD, it's really important that they know that, you know, there's nothing wrong with them because of how they're responding, that they experienced something that was really abnormal, and their response to that abnormal situation is really actually a normal response, you know, because what's happened ultimately is that we go into survival mode. And so whenever we feel like we're in danger, whether it's perceived or whether it's a real danger, you know, our natural instincts is to protect ourselves. And so people do that in different ways. And so most people know about, you know, in general, kind of like, you know, some responses, you know, the fight, flight, or freeze, you know. And so in that kind of how do we respond to fear, you know. And so like you said, you know, even though maybe the same situation isn't happening with the police when you see them again, that still initial fear, that feeling of fear comes back. And how do I respond, you know, in this situation? So, you know, is it fight, you know, and that may look different for different people. You know, if yours may be, I want to show that I'm not intimidated, you know, or anybody else for that matter. Flight is when we leave, we avoid it. We want to we don't want to deal with it, we run. And freeze is when people just kind of really shut down and they might feel like they can't move. They may feel like they don't know what to say. They're stuck. And that's the stuff we want to kind of help ourselves work through because it's a real thing. You know, there's chemicals that are being released in our bodies that are telling us, you know, danger. And we have to be able to figure out, that's where it comes back to regulating ourselves, figuring out what helps us to hit that reset button so that we can calm back down and be able to assess the situation and, okay, am I in real danger or is this a feeling of danger because of something that has happened before? You know, and then from there we can respond or act accordingly, you know, because if it is real danger, okay, we want to protect ourselves, right?
Right.
But if it's perceived, if it's a feeling of danger, then we want to be able to, you know, hit our reset button, calm down, and then figure out how we need to kind of move differently, you know, because of it, you know. Right. And that's a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you, like that's a lot for people to take on and to be able to be asked to function normally in the world, you know, on our jobs and school and, you know, all of this stuff when we're dealing with all of these triggers, you know, that, you know, have been really kind of inflicted on us because of different forms of abuse, you know, so.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to ask, do you feel like there are some, I feel like there's a balance in between us having to experience and witness certain things in order to really, I guess, fight for what the goal is at the end of the day to stop systemic racism as far as like exposing certain things. Like we've gotten social media that has exposed more things within cases such as like Trayvon and Mike Brown and stuff like that through video, versus how normally we would receive it through the news after it's been filtered through and stuff like that, and not actually showing a full account of things that happen. And because nowadays we're in the culture of having to live stream what's happening and stuff like that, and other people are having to witness, you know, the videos and stuff like that, do you feel like that is sometimes like self-inflicted trauma?
I don't know if I would say self-inflicted, but I definitely hear where you're going. Okay, and maybe it could be. What it is though, it is a form of vicarious trauma, and so that's, you know, a way that we experience trauma.
Yeah.
And vicarious trauma is where we are traumatized by witnessing someone else's trauma. You know, a traumatic event of some sort, and it causes us to be traumatized because of it. And so that's definitely happening when we're watching the videos of people who are being killed right in front of us.
Yeah.
And those are images that are not going to leave your mind.
Right.
And how does it affect us as individuals? And everybody's different. And we can't say how something should or shouldn't affect another person, and we can't say what it will take for another person to heal. That makes sense?
Yeah.
We're all different beings, and we're all affected by things in a different way, and we all need different things in order to be able to recover and heal from it. And so, you know, that definitely does play a huge role in it. Social media never stops.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we really have to really kind of guard our, you know, hearts, and we have to guard our minds, and we have to take breaks.
Yeah.
And so that we can, you know, give ourselves time to breathe, because it's damaging to us emotionally and psychologically when we're constantly taking in, you know, and watching traumatic events over and over and over again. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate your perspective on that. I definitely feel like there is balance needed within that for myself, because, you know, you can be very passionate about like what's going on, and if you are very like empathetic and take on other people's emotions and stuff like that, like you said, vicarious trauma, and that can affect you more than sometimes we're willing to admit, because it didn't necessarily happen to us, but everything basically that is happening in this country feels like it's happening to every Black person in America right now. So I did want to open up that conversation about just, you know, being aware of how things affect us that are going on in this country, and like you said, being able to self-care and make sure that we can come back to ourselves and find a way to heal.
And, you know, one of the things that I, you know, encourage, you know, people that I work with, and I do myself, you know, honestly, is, you know, kind of like we, you know, chit-chatted a little bit before, I really try to find things that help me to bring joy back to me, because I don't want things to steal or to kill my joy.
Yeah.
And that's what this stuff is designed to do, you know, steal and kill our joy, and we don't want that. And so, you know, different things bring us joy. You know, I have my dog, I have my family, you know, and they all bring me joy, you know. Not in that order. but they do. They all bring me joy. Some of the other things that bring me joy, I talked about, I really enjoy like watching the versus battles, and so music is one of those things that, can create all kinds of different moods. They can have me, real hyped up and, crunk, as they say, or and then that's my age range, I guess. But they can have us real hyped up, or it can really be relaxing and soothing. And but music really can be healing for me, and then comedy. And so not to, like I said before, not for cognitive dissonance type of thing to detach from it, but you want to be able to maintain a certain level of joy. You want to keep that joy and figure out what combination works for you, and everybody's different,
Yeah.
And so figuring out what the combination is that works for you so that you can keep that joy, so that you can take a break and catch your breath and breathe, and then get back into the fight again, and kind of go from there. So that's one of the things that I always think is really helpful when we're dealing with these things, because we want to be able to have the stamina to keep going,
Right.
Yeah. So that helps me with joy.
Yeah, I think Black people in general have a very good grasp on being able to take trauma into comedy and be able to find joy into things. That's one thing that I think makes us resilient towards a lot of things that happen, because even in the worst situations, we don't laugh.
Yeah. We are. We're very resilient people.
Yeah.
We are. And I agree. We take that pain and we turn it into purpose. And that's one of the best things that we can do. And so, but yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah. Most definitely. Well, thank you again, Fancy, and y'all make sure y'all go follow her. I will see you guys next week.